Hey everyone, welcome to Sketch-A-Day. I'm Spencer and I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for being a fan first and foremost, but if this is your first time, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on alerts so you don't miss out when we do things like go live 3, sometimes even 4 times a week, so you'll want to turn on those alerts. Come say hi on the socials. I am at sketchaday.com, and be sure to hit up sketchaday.com/newsletter and sign up for all that good stuff. You'll want to do that this week. Just trust me on that. Okay, so today we're gonna do a handheld barcode scanner. I guess I've just been venturing out into the kind of crazy world right now and shopping, and I thought, yeah, it'd be fun to do something like that. I'm gonna be using Copic markers and some new marker paper I'm testing out. So far it's pretty good. More on that later. In the description for the video below, you'll find the materials I use typically in my videos. So if you want to get some new materials or help support what we do here at Sketch-A-Day, that's a great way to do it. So with that, let's get started. I'm gonna actually use a red pen just to kind of get things started. And I have an idea in my head, a little bit of maybe what this barcode scanner could look like. We're just gonna keep it nice and simple here. Maybe on the top there's a little display, so if I'm looking at this I can kind of see what's happening. And then let's go ahead and do just a quick front view as well, just to show what this might look like. All right, something like this. And we also need a trigger, so I'll put that in. Maybe something like that. Okay. And this is where, you know, you'd have your laser scanner, all that good stuff. Maybe I'll throw some red in there on the final sketch just to help that out. All right, so doing this, I want to show, you know, what the form might look like in perspective as well. I like to sketch in simple shapes like that, like a circle, maybe another circle. Just giving you an idea of how you can kind of take some simple forms and really just work things out if you're sketching something new. Here's a cylinder, not really worrying about the transition on the back. And then on the top of this thing, I kind of have this screen sketch that I wanted to incorporate. So I'm gonna pull that in and then angle this front back a little bit. Now, just to complete this page, I do want a sketch of, you know, someone holding this thing. So sometimes what I'll do is just kind of reference my own hand as I'm sketching here. And, you know, if this is my handle, here's my palm, and we can sketch the actual barcode scanner. And maybe this sketch is a reference sketch or something, but we can just keep it nice and light and fresh on the page as we're going. Just a quick ideation sketch page with a little bit of color to pull things out as needed. You know, maybe the screen is kind of giving some information about what's being scanned, for example, price and so forth. Something like that. Just another finger. And then I'm just gonna check here and make sure I have, you know, a little bit, make sure I'm referencing my hand here the right way. And just finish this out, maybe tie these two sketches together that are overlapping, but we can pull out the relevant bits of the sketch with a little bit of contrast. Now, like I said, sketching with a red pen today, a little bit different, and I liked it. It made sense in my head. Hopefully this works out. Sometimes sketching is a little bit of trial and error, and maybe you guys are gonna get to see a little bit of error today, but I'm feeling pretty good about it, so we'll just roll with it and see where we end up. All right, so I'm gonna be using my neutral grays today, and let's start with this neutral gray 6. This is a series of grays from Copic. If you've been watching the channel, you should notice or realize that I do like Copic markers quite a bit. I feel they're just consistent and they have a nice flow to them. Now, I am going to be testing this week. You'll want to watch out for this video. I'm going to be testing some new markers as well as some new products. So I've got a display tablet that I purchased, as well as some cheaper markers that I wanted to try out. So I'll have some information on that. Okay, so at this point, just trying to build up some value around these shadow cores, as well as here I've got this neutral gray 4 that I can throw in as well, just for purposes of gradient. Okay, nice and simple, kind of dark rendering. I did sketch my thumb in here, so just want to make sure I'm getting this handle, and we'll pick a color for the cord and so forth. But just a little black, or not black, a little dark gray there. And we can do the same on these thumbnail sketches as well. All right. Contrast is your friend. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to help your sketches pop and just look good. Sketch fast, but not too sloppy if you can help it. And just be patient. You know, sometimes it takes a bit to layer up the colors that you're putting down, or the marker if you're using a marker. So be patient with yourself and don't expect it to look perfect after, you know, just a couple strokes here and there. All right, so now I'm gonna use this sketch as a supporting sketch, if you will, for the entire thing. So just adding a little bit of red here. Maybe the cable itself is red, the trigger, and like I said, we had this kind of background element I wanted to include to tie these concepts together, like so, and maybe do the same thing over here. We'll use some light gray just to pop some elements on that secondary main sketch. All right, just shading with this red to kind of tie these two together, like so. And I'll create a little bit of an abbreviated gradient, so it kind of ends abruptly there, and we'll make sure this pops nice and good on our sketch page. So far looking good. Now, like I said, for this secondary sketch, I'm going to use like an N2 or N3, which you can kind of, you know, if you're used to using cool grays, it's just the second value, stepping up from 1, right? So here, just some nice light gray, just focusing on our shadow cores and perhaps a little bit of form, but definitely don't want this one to overwhelm the other sketches. So keep it loose, keep it light. All right, and now it's a supporting sketch, and we can further pull the form and impact out of our main sketch here by continuing to build and work on contrast. So now I've switched to an N9. Okay, and I want to make sure I'm getting some nice, crisp reflection lines, if you will. If this thing is shiny in any way, it's gonna really just have some nice reflection stuff happening in it. The neutral gray is interesting. It's certainly not as bluish as the other grays I'm used to, like the cool gray Copic. It's really nice. So if you're interested in trying that out, and Copic's not the only color that makes a neutral gray. I believe ChartPack also has a nice, the basic gray it's called, pen that you can use, or marker. So that's something you can look into if you're interested. All right, so the fingers here on the hand, just a little bit of gray for shadowing purposes. We don't want the hand to be the main part of the sketch. So what I tend to do is just focus on the shadowing. So in this case, the product shadow on the hand and just a general outline like so. Just enough to hint at perhaps the ergonomic or placement considerations that we might have for this design. Okay, so just a little bit of red there. And now I'm gonna switch to my black Papermate. And this pen I'm gonna use like so. Well, let's find one that's juicy. I've been working through kind of cleaning up my inventory a bit. So I'm gonna part ways with that one. But just a little black here to kind of introduce some contrast and further pull this design into the foreground, okay? So heavier black line weight toward the back, away from my light source. Most times I do draw with my shoulder, but in this instance, putting a few lines down with your wrist is totally fine, as you know, those areas are kind of small, and sometimes it's just easier with your wrist. But the idea is you definitely want to, where possible, use your shoulder, okay? And that's going to just help you have better line quality as you're drawing. All right, so a little bit more black here, and then we're really gonna dial up the contrast and effects to kind of help this pop even further on the page, okay? So nice dark outline, and hopefully you can kind of see the red lines here have now become the construction lines for the sketch. So another way to basically just work light until we get it right, okay? On these secondary sketches, I'm just using the flare here to introduce perhaps just some sketch reflections in this gun, like so, just like that. I'll bring that over. By that, I mean bring a line over to identify where this trigger is. It is red, so I'll highlight that in, and then just use a little gray to show the form on this handle. Perhaps go just a touch darker here. We have some shadow under here and perhaps some reflections. So once again, just keep it loose, keep it nice and expressive. So here on the barcode scan area, fill that in with a little bit of red, and now I can take some gray, like this N6, and go over the red to introduce some shadowing and perhaps some reflections in that scan area. Now back to the back here, we do have kind of this area that has a display. I'm actually going to use red for this display, and this little shape is meant to denote like a reflection in the surface, okay? Something like that, and maybe these buttons are red as well. Now I can take my black pen, just add a little bit of detail and fidelity to this area. Perhaps a logo of some sort on that area, just like that. Try not to stress when you're sketching, because if you do stress, it tends to show in your work. All right, so now I've switched to straight black. Actually, this is a special black, it's called, and this is just gonna help with some of that contrast that's happening in this product. Not a huge fan of this bump on the side, so I'm just gonna use some black here, and then perhaps just a little white as a rim light. You'll see how that works in just a second. So on the display, hit this area with a little bit of gray, like so. And sometimes when you're sketching, trying something new, you can have happy accidents, or you can end up with a disaster. In this case, I feel like things are working, which is good, but my point is, don't be afraid to try something new and different as you're sketching, because oftentimes you will surprise yourself and come up with an interesting way to present or even show those concepts. All right, a little bit gray on the far side here. I'm using an N3. Now I'm jumping to a 5 as I want to just kind of blend from this corner, and let's blend in here as well. This marker paper is really good. If you're curious which one it is a Canson marker paper, so check that out. Now I have some white, and with this we can add a couple highlight spots on this guy, maybe even some rim light on our edges and underneath perhaps, and this is just going to help things pop and read a lot better. Now I do have a couple white pens I've been trying. Here's a Molotow Molotov. I think they make spray paint pen, and it's pretty opaque, and I so far I like it. So we'll use this one for just this outline. All right. And it's a pump pen, meaning I can push down on the tip of this pen and get more ink to come out. But like I always say, there's always a fix. So if you've been sketching and you made a mistake or something, you can always be creative and come up with a way to kind of fix your sketches, if you will. All right, a couple highlight spots there, maybe on the top as well. Just that pure white from this pen, just like so. You can even use it to clean some stuff up. So in this instance, I have these red lines. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of paint this area and cover it up, just like so. Keep that nice and clean, but again, just being kind of creative with this paint marker or pen and seeing what we can do there. All right, a couple more things. Since this is a button, maybe it has some sort of label. And then I want to create a separation on the screen, ever so subtle, just nice and light. A couple more reflection lines here. By reflection lines, I mean that in the environment the product is in, you may have things that are reflecting into those shiny surfaces. So I try to represent those in some way whenever I'm sketching. Now let's just pump the shadow on the hand here. Now that we're dry, just pump that a bit. I'm using an N4. Okay. Particularly where the product is kind of hovering over the hand, I'm gonna pump that shadow just a little bit right through there. And to further separate these two concepts, let's go ahead and add some red. And I'll project over and kind of estimate where the rest of this red ended. Right there, and behind this concept to the end of the page, just like that. Okay, so now these kind of pop a bit more on the page, just like so. Always helpful if you have a concept or something you're showing, having some sort of notes on the page are also helpful. In this case here, I'm just throwing some black lines over the whole thing to visually give a separation with perhaps where that scanning beam would go. And again, just trying to be creative and try something different, see how it goes. Okay, so notes, super helpful. Squiggly line and some text. This is just dummy text, but kind of helps show, I think, if this is the second thing, kind of helps show context if you are putting together a product sketch page, so that you can explain your concept and someone could pick up your page and be able to guide themselves through that presentation. So just a handy way to add some context, and frankly, they kind of work as compositional elements as well. So that's another advantage or reason that we add those notes on your sketch page. All right, so this is looking pretty good, and I think I'll call it. It's always hard to know when to stop. I think kind of comes with experience, but when you get it, you get it. So a little bit more intense red on this side, and now we have a nice little gradient here for our page. Well, that's it. There's our barcode scanner, and hopefully you guys were able to learn something or pick up something interesting. And if you did, more than following and subscribing, I want you to share this video with someone if you think they can benefit from it. Find a way to give back and pass it forward, pay it forward. I think that's the exact phrasing. So if you benefited, definitely share, and if you feel like it, drop us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, because I appreciate you and thank you so much for making it this far. If you have made it to this point, I go live about 3 times a week now, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. So you'll want to subscribe, turn on alerts so you don't miss those. And it's a really fun experience for me because I get to hear from you guys and your suggestions and so forth. This last week we did aquatic themed or water themed things, and it was really fun. So I look forward to that, and hopefully you guys drop some suggestions in the comments. Hit me up either way. We even have a Discord server now, so this is all about connecting with you guys. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Sketchaday.